So delighted to introduce David, particularly for just the nature of the discussion the nature of the workshop this afternoon. It is a tech startup competition, and everybody's got 5 minutes or so, right? Yeah. Right. But I'm going to take the time to actually read your bio because it's kind of cool. Oh, wow. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Jeez. So track record in technology commercialization, right, which is kind of the biggie, right? A lot of tech companies don't really get to the true commercialization side. Yeah. Yeah. So fantastic. And senior stakeholder engagement. Everything today is really about that as well. But then also served as Trade and Investment Commissioner to North America for the Queensland government. That's pretty cool.
Very random, yes.
Yeah, and completely, I mean, is there a relationship between the two?
Yeah, look, as part of my remit with the Queensland government was to support companies from Australia entering into the US market. So.
Fantastic. Yeah. So as a fellow Australian, we're very grateful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Ready for the most exciting session of the day? Sorry to all the other panelists that spoke earlier. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Hopefully I have all of my judges. Yes, all the judges here. I have all of the startup founders. Put your hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. You guys can take a seat. It's okay. Don't need to be nervous. So, folks, welcome. Welcome to the Startups Unearthed America's pitch competition here at Future of Mining Americas in Denver. Pretty excited to be here today. So, quick introduction. My name's David Camerlengo. I'm with an organization called Unearthed. And ultimately, a little bit of background on Unearthed and why we're here today. Unearthed is a community of innovators that are working to solve big, complex challenges in the mining sector and resources sector. Included in that community are entrepreneurs and founders that are working on some incredible solutions to solve some of these complex challenges. And so today is a great fit for our purpose around trying to create economic opportunities for founders to solve some of these challenges and to drive an impact in the industry. So I'd like to firstly thank Aspermont and the team here at Future of Mining Americas for actually dedicating. It's not often that you get a session like this at a mining conference to allow the opportunities for startup founders to be able to talk about what they're working on and showcase that. So I congratulate Aspermont for doing that. I'd also like to thank Shell for their partnership in this session today. Not only have they sponsored this particular session, but they've even provided an opportunity for these startups that are at the conference to be based at the Startup Showcase Lounge outside. So take the opportunity to go and have a chat to the founders today. I'd like to welcome our judges. So the way that this is going to work is we have 5 startups that have been selected as finalists from a field of about over 30 plus submissions that we received for this competition. Those 5 startups will have 5 minutes to pitch. They will then receive some friendly questions, keeping it friendly, judges, friendly questions from our judges, panel of judges, for about 7 minutes. And then at the end of today's session, the judges will go away and deliberate, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to announce tonight the winner of the Startups Unearthed America's Startup of the Year. So, without any further ado, we should jump straight into it. I'd like to firstly welcome our judges and introduce our judges. We have Liesl Van Wyk, who's the Director for Operations Excellence at SSR Mining. We have Gordana Slepcev, the Chief Operating Officer for Anaconda Mining. Rens Volk, who is a venture analyst at Shell Ventures. Joe Gladu, who's the VP North America for CommitWorks, a startup that has had some success, has got some scars along that journey that they can share and can share a unique perspective. And our founder from Unearthed, Justin Strasky, who's the founding director for Unearthed. So, without any further ado, let's introduce our first founder. From Minetell, Michael Hartley, the founder and CEO. Come on up, Michael. You have 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. Over there.
Thanks. There's a microphone if you want to walk and talk. Yeah, I've got a mic on, so we're good. Hello again. Thank you for everyone for being here. Again, my name is Michael Hartley, founder and CEO of Minetell. We are a risk and performance enterprise SaaS technology. Today, I want to talk to you about change and the future in the context of risk management. For me, it happened April 2010. That's when it changed. I was working offshore in the North Caspian Sea with 6,200 other colleagues when Deepwater Horizon exploded in the Gulf of Mexico. When our installation manager came to me and said, "Could this happen to us?" I could not definitively say no. And that's when I knew I needed to change the way I thought about and measured risk and performance. And that was the day Minetell was conceived. The problem that we're solving is that there's a lack of reliable and actionable information available to decision makers without which we cannot answer two fundamental questions. What's our current risk exposure? And how effective are critical controls right now? At Minetell, our focus is upstream of material events. We leverage IoT, AI, machine learning to capture, collect, analyze data that support critical control effectiveness and risk exposure. This enables our clients to better proactively predict and prevent failure, as opposed to fall into that trap of react, repair, repeat. Minetell provides our clients with the ability to know, to measure what's happening, not just what happened. To test control effectiveness, not just to confirm its existence, and provide their decision makers with that real-time information, and not just generate reports that too few people read. This enables a capacity to listen to frontline operations, people, machines, equipment, detect and intervene using predictive data, and inform stakeholders on actual performance. In 10 years, if your company is not data-driven and can demonstrate that it's a learning and improving organization, your company will not exist. Because regardless of industry, data worked for winners. In 1955, the life expectancy of a Fortune 500 company was 75 years. Today, it's less than 15. I'm reminded of a mining leader in Canada who said, "If you want to give people accountability for oversight, you have to give them insight." And stakeholders, who can largely influence that life expectancy, demand that same insight as well. With Minetell, we're able to inform frontline operations, supervision, management, executive leadership on underperforming critical controls and unacceptable exposure to material risk. Minetell supports two main things. Again, I've talked about critical control performance and material risk exposure. Yeah? We want to be that third monitor on a GM or COO's desk. First, throughput output. Second, cost schedule. Third, material risk critical controls. Yeah? We support internal decision making, but the value of Minetell data goes far beyond that. Yeah? Picture a situation where you're able to utilize risk and performance data in your sustainability reports, year-end reports, share that information with insurers, regulators, local communities. What would that mean for your company? How would that help you build trust with your stakeholders? And how would that help you set yourself apart from your peers? At Minetell, we see risk management as just the beginning. We see a future where operations can measure compliance with permits, complex codes of practice, and these data can support a truly performance-based ESG index that can be used to better engage investors and host governments. That is a potential differentiator worth tens, if not hundreds of millions. As much as we don't want an incident telling us that our controls have failed, I don't want an auditor telling me that I'm out of compliance. And I don't want an investor telling me that my ESG performance doesn't make the grade. At Minetell, we're on a journey to help our companies change the way they manage, measure, and engage with risk and performance data. There's $500 billion worth of value on offer for those with the courage to make that change. The last question I want to leave you with is this. Will you be left behind, or will you join us? Thank you.
Okay, we have 7 minutes. Questions from our judges.
By the way, the clock wasn't going. Was I 5 minutes?
Perfectly, spot
Great,
on
okay.
5, actually. Sorry.
Do
I
get
think your
some
mic
points
should
for
be
that?
working if you, yep.
Michael, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you give us an example of where the Minetell product has identified, or POC in the works, where risk has been identified using this approach, and potentially where it has reduced, mitigated risk?
Yeah, so Minetell's been deployed in 3 locations globally, and we've got immediate expansion plans both in North America and around the world. So one of the areas that we looked at was a continuous control around traffic management. So this is the system that prevents vehicles from running into one another, rolling over one another, or rolling off the hill, or rolling over smaller vehicles. So we were collecting speed, proximity data, but also inputs from the operators, and that was put up on the dashboard next to the operational dashboard in the shift handover room. And what the operators were telling us was that the conversations were different between operator, supervisor, and superintendent. And that the supervisors really had their feet held to the fire because whenever we saw an amber or a red, that meant that we had to act, right? So we talked about earlier about knowing what to measure, knowing when to act. Minetell really facilitated that. So what we saw over the course of that trial was a 9% improvement over control performance. And what we were getting the feedback was we were really compressing the improvement cycles on those failed controls.
Hi, Michael. This is Rens. Thank you for your presentation. A question on the data. So you didn't present about it, but I read that you both get information from people and you get it from
Machines and equipment. Yep.
Machines and equipment. How do you reconcile that data? How do you keep it in real time? And I saw a piece around the compliance and response rate. Can you maybe shed a light on how you gather that data?
Yeah, so again, the data come from 3 sources, people, machines, equipment. Because critical controls, there is a significant administrative component. Hatch puts that somewhere around 50 to 60%. And so a way to engage with people, again, to humanize that process, is to solicit their inputs and what they're seeing around control performance. So we rationalize the data in 2 ways. We look at, first of all, we know that the data that we're capturing is valid because of the process that we've walked through. We're not just picking out things to measure because it's easy. We look at those things because they're important to the integrity of a critical control. The reliability piece is that we're not just looking at one individual or one data source. We're looking at data from multiple data sources. So it could be tens, if not hundreds of data sources informing the overall performance of a control. And then lastly is around the quality piece. So this is where we get a better understanding of, well, if we're going through these number of questions or we're looking for data coming from source A or B, what's the requirements and expectations around that so we can build that into our mathematical models to obviously confirm the quality, but also we know that we've got reliable and valid data.
Any final questions? One more? Quick one.
Enterprise risk, operational risk, they are at very different levels of strata.
Yeah.
You as a startup company or a new company entering the huge space of risk management and positioning yourself as a company, how do you choose which strata to tackle? Because some of it is very conceptual and some of it is very tangible. Where are you positioning yourself?
Well, we keep that focus on the context around what risks are material and what controls are critical. And those controls are critical are the things that help senior leaders sleep at night. So not what keeps you up, what helps you sleep at night, that's where we would start. So we typically start with 3 or 4 material risks and critical controls, and then look to expand as we scale up in terms of number of people engaging with Minetell at a site, and also expand the scope as we go from 1 to 10, 1 to X of their material risks.
Well done.
But,
All right, big round of applause, folks,
Thank
for
you.
Michael. Thank you, Michael. All right. The cool thing about today is you've actually got quite a bit of diversity in terms of the startups and the problems that they're working on across the industry, which is really neat to see. So next up, Andrew Dasys, who is the founder of Objectivity. A round of applause for Andrew.
You say that was a pretty stupid use of 15 seconds. So I'm Andrew Dasys. I'm the founder and CEO of Objectivity. We're focusing on decreasing the amount of time it takes mining companies to move a resource from inferred to measured and indicated. And of course we use AI, like everybody else that's doing anything in technology today. But we have a slightly different approach. Most people who are looking at targeting in geology are looking at early stage exploration. We're not, presumably. We take a completely different approach, and we're looking at resource development. You found it, you drilled it to inferred, you know it's there, and now it's time to bring it to market. And our whole process is focused on this idea that a volume of ground is a product that has to be brought to market. If you're a junior, it's funding. And if you're an active mining company, it's production. And do we have a laser? So what you see is a drift, and from that drift you see two sets of drill holes, orange and green. They may look the same. The value generated by those two plans are very different, and you see that in 2D on the DRX investment curve. The green point represents the manual plan. You can see it's about 15.5 kilometers of drilling. DRX doesn't generate a plan. It uses a number of algorithms to produce a range of plans. And that allows your team to make investment decisions. Those plans could be about making decisions about underground or surface. But really, it's about how to best invest the limited number of meters that you're going to drill per year. And AI is going to be used everywhere. We use it every day, and it is going to hit every part of mining. And as one of the speakers said this morning in the forum, you either adapt or you'll be left behind. But what's interesting is when do you apply the AI and when do you get the most bang for your buck? Who here has bought cannabis stocks in the last year? You don't have to be shy, cannabis is legal in Colorado. I didn't. Huge opportunity loss. But what it did is cannabis and crypto moved somewhere between 4 and 26% of investment, according to the PDA, out of junior mining stocks. And that's a huge hit to us. And we have to change, because it's not about reducing drilling, it's about time. It's about time that we can change, it's about time that we can implement. And if you were to double your production, that would be a step change. But it would be linear. You'd bring twice the tons to the market. But through the magic of accountancy, anything that you do to reduce pre-production cash spend has a nonlinear effect. And my water bottles represent 4 years of production. And we're focusing right here. And if you're a junior, the period of time that you go from PEA to feasibility is tough in the market. And we want to reduce that time. We currently have a 97% success rate in decreasing or increasing the efficiency of drilling by 25%. This is over 40 projects, underground, surface. We are working with, so I can say this, and I have to be careful, we are working with 2 of the 6 largest mining companies in the world to start looking at multi-site rollout. And 2 out of 6 is the safe way of staying within NDAs, which are so constraining for marketing. But what was really interesting about applying AI is that it can start doing things completely differently. And working with Barrick at Alturas, we use DRX to lay out in situ leaching, which is a trial that they had going through their innovation group. DRX did what every engineer would do. It high-graded Alturas. And I think that's the key point. AI is not to do what we already do. It's to open new doors. And that's what DRX does. Thank you very much. So I'll attempt to answer questions.
Nicely done. Judges.
Thanks very much for that. Can you tell me over time where you think your competitive advantage is going to be from other startups applying artificial intelligence to drilling data?
So the question is, where is our competitive advantage compared to all the other startups that are using AI for drilling? I think our competitive advantage is we're not focusing on exploration. The problem is very, very different. Exploration is using typically ML. This is not ML-based. And just because of the way that the mining industry works, you know ahead of time whether the drill plan the DRX produces is more effective than the manual plan.
And over time, does that advantage increase as you're aggregating data and knowledge across those projects?
We haven't done enough to know that. The advantage is if you look at this from an investment perspective, and you can quickly produce plans and you can quickly produce investment curves, and you have more than one location where you're drilling, you now have the capability of maximizing the value of every meter that you drill. Also, we tend to drill single holes that only do one thing, geotech or geochem or whatever. Using the fact that the algorithms don't have a limited bandwidth, you can start looking at much more data per drill hole. And when we work with clients, we like to say that on average, everybody is happy with the drill plan, but nobody's absolutely happy. But making people happy in your company, technically, shouldn't be the driving reason. It really should be bringing that thing to market. So it's about risk, right? We drill to reduce risk. We like to say that most people mentally drill to confirm what they believe. We want them to think about drilling to eliminate that which they do not know. And when you think about it that way, it's very, very different and almost impossible to do mentally.
Just a question on, so AI is a very broad term, and if it's not machine learning, but it's AI, could you help us understand a bit clearer what exactly is that value proposition in the AI approach? Is it combining more data? Is it slicing it in a different way? Is it sequencing data that used to be quite isolated? Could you clarify the AI concept a bit more?
I did not understand your question. So you're asking a description of how AI is used, or you're asking how the data is combined, or you're asking what is the ultimate benefit to the user?
Right, yeah, so 3 questions in one. So I'll do part A then. If it's AI and it's not machine learning, what is your value proposition? Is it looking at historical data that we used to geotechnical or hydrogeological or whatever, rock strength, different? Are you combining it together and using your DRX algorithms to come up with your new technology, or could you dissect AI a bit more?
So AI is quite a broad field. We do use one component of ML, but we use ML as a means of setting parameters on the algorithm that actually solves the problem. And the problem is too large to solve, so it's a heuristic, and we're using a heuristic. Your question on value proposition confuses me. I'm not understanding how the type of AI is related to the value proposition, so I've tried to answer the AI side. The value proposition is really about teams being able to make objective decisions using information that they cannot today and that within the next 3 to 5 years, more and more information is going to be coming to them. And whether that information is raw, or whether that information gets distilled by AI into factors, those people will not have more time or more mental capability to be able to synthesize and act on more information. That's the value proposition. We've not found a limit to the quantity of information that can be put into the algorithms. That was a very difficult question.
One final quick question.
Yeah, quick one, not another one like that, please.
Quick answer as well.
So, thank you for the presentation. It's a really interesting concept. So I was wondering if this like AI or machine learning company is actually focusing on finding the optimal points you want to reach so you can actually increase your, the resource categories. Basically, is finding where in the space that hole should fit so you actually get maximum out of it. Is that kind of the point of it?
So if I understood your question, you're asking, is AI being used to determine what we currently call the spacing of the holes within the volume of ground that we're drilling? No, it's not. When we say spacing, and it's what everybody uses, spacing is a term that's used in a 2D plane. And it was used because the person who creates the model is thinking in 3D and has to translate that to somebody who then lays out the drill plan. And so they take a complex, so when you read a 43-101, you're going to see number of composites within a certain distance, within the volume, within the geological structure, and that gets translated to a 12.5 meter spacing. And the 12.5 meter spacing we respect, in fact we ignore, we go straight to what the modeler requires. But that now gives you incredible capability, because if you have an ore body with multiple anisotropies, so different directions of mineralization, again, you're using a 12.5 meter spacing on average. Our industry is great for rules of thumb and average. This algorithms generally don't need to use averages. So if you have 7 anisotropies, we take all 7 of them into account. We do not, however, change what your qualified person has determined as being the requirement. But that being said, we challenge what the individual says, because I don't believe that nature says spacing has to end with a 5 or a 0. Thank you.
Well done, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause. Okay. Next startup. I'd like to welcome to the stage Amanda Truscott, who's the co-founder and CEO of Rhythmic. Amanda. Let's give her a big round of applause, folks. Come on.
Hello? Hello? Good. At Rhythmic Solutions, we build advanced analytics for predictive maintenance on mining equipment. Oh, I'm going to need a clicker for this, aren't I? There we go. If you're a reliability engineer, you know what it's like to have to explain catastrophic equipment failures. For example, if the oil pump in a haul truck breaks, you're looking at maybe $30,000 to fix. That's if you catch it. If you don't, the engine might blow. And then you're looking at something more like $2.5 million for combined maintenance and downtime, depending on the material you're working with. Situations like that are why mining companies typically spend 20 to 50% of their annual operating budgets on equipment repair and maintenance. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can help, but as you know, mines are complex and dynamic, which makes implementing machine learning difficult. Change management is a real barrier, and predictive maintenance solutions built for other environments can't handle the extreme conditions. Equipment manufacturers are up for the challenge, and companies still want something that's faster and more flexible. That's why we created Asset Health Analyzer, AHA for short. It's an analytics engine with a suite of algorithms tailored for mines. Our digital twin approach creates an AI-powered model of a healthy piece of equipment that it runs alongside its physical counterpart, so that when the equipment deviates even slightly from its ideal, the algorithms detect those deviations and provide intelligence to users so they can better judge when and how to implement repairs. It can be used to explore historical data for root causes of failures, to watch equipment health in real time, and to create alerts on conditions, eliminating the need to manually create and maintain error thresholds. It can also be used to optimize scheduled maintenance. Unlike other solutions, it's built to be used in-house, and it integrates with existing platforms so that your average user doesn't have to learn a new tool. It combines sensor data from any brand of equipment with context from things like work orders and dispatch systems, and it leverages a blazing fast serverless infrastructure to build and tune its models. Those models can then run in the cloud, on-premise, or on the edge. And if you're not collecting data yet, we can provide recommendations to help you get there. Wherever you are in the AI journey, our goal is not to tear your systems down, it's to level them up. And we do that by putting AI into the hands of the mine's own experts, because nobody knows your equipment and your environment better than you. And we see and understand the big picture. We know that companies want insights from all the way mine to port. We're starting with mobile equipment, but our mission is to be the predictive maintenance tool for the entire mining supply chain, and we'll be integrating with your systems every step of the way. And we have results. A British Columbia mining company had 2 different failures on 2 brands of truck that cost a combined $4 million American a year, because in the first case, equipment-generated alarms came too late, and in the second case, data was missing from the problematic subsystem. AHA found indicators of both those failures several hours in advance, and in the second case, with data from a completely different subsystem. We're now negotiating a more formal pilot with that company. We also completed a proof of concept with PECTEC. AHA provided indicators of consumable wear and tear as a key element for more advanced blast hole drilling capabilities. We get results from the strength of our team. My name is Amanda, and I'm co-founder and CEO. My fellow co-founders, Chris and Kevin, combine data science with experience on equipment in mines all over North and South America. They know the challenges, and that's why they built a solution that meets them. And that's why we think we can save, on average, about $400,000 a year per asset. So for a mine with 30 haul trucks, that would be a little less than $12 million a year net benefit. And what we're looking to do now is to prove that in the context of a series of pilots. Companies that pilot with us will get insights into their most expensive equipment failures, and if they choose to purchase AHA licenses, they would get deep discounts on those. To summarize, at Rhythmic, we combine data science with deep subject matter expertise. AHA is a partnership-based, in-house solution unlike anything else on the market, and it meets the needs of mines for flexibility, resilience, and context. Thank you.
Well done. Well done, Amanda. Over to the judges.
Amanda, thank you for the presentation. Do you have any implementation so far?
So we've run it on a lot of real mining data. This is a new technology, so we're currently in discussions with 5 companies about pilots. We don't have any site implementations yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great presentation, Joe from CommitWorks. Just curious, what you talked about data acquisition, and you're not providing the data acquisition yourself, but you've got recommended partners that you're working with. Just help me understand what the ecosystem looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there are several different companies that already do the data collection. In fact, my 2 co-founders used to work for one of them back in the day. So we're really looking at them as partners. We're not looking to replace those companies. And there are several of those that we're in discussions about having a formal partnership with, but whatever's in place in the mine already, we can work with.
Thank you for your presentation, very insightful. When I think about larger categories, would you say you're more, I think as alluded in your question, are you more on the consulting side, helping to build what, sort of the AI, to use a buzzword, can do for a mining company? Or would you say you build a platform where you ingest the data and then give actionable insights? If you had to pick one, where is your ambition to grow to?
So I would say actually neither. I mean, there is necessarily going to be a consulting component to what we do because we're really working with the mine's own experts to make sure that their contextual knowledge is infused into the system. That said, it's not a platform, it's an analytics engine, in the sense that we're not looking to replace the existing platforms at the mine. So whether they're using a Honeywell system or an iVol system or a Wenco system, we're not replacing that, we're augmenting it.
Any other questions? I think the judges have everything they need. Big round of applause for Amanda, folks. Well done. Right. Before our next speaker, I might just remove this trip hazards that Andrew's conveniently set up to boycott the following speakers. Very good. Okay. All right. Let's now welcome Shelby Yee, who's another female founder and co-founder and CEO of Rockmass. Big round of applause. So, there's a mic there if you want.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Shelby. I am the CEO and co-founder of Rockmass. And at Rockmass, we provide data collection and management solutions that improve the efficiency and safety of operations for underground mines. And very specifically, we're working with ground control engineers right now. Do we have any ground control engineers, geotechs in the audience? We got one. And that's what I expected. So what do geotechnical engineers do? What decisions are they making in the ground? So one is excavation design of tunnels and stopes. So this is the size, the shape of how they're built. Ground support design, so all of the rock bolts and mesh that go into making sure that tunnels are safe to operate in, and also understanding the risk of these tunnels. But the problem right now with collecting that data is it's very difficult to obtain in a timely manner. Oftentimes, ground control engineers are going underground every day with a pen and paper, and they're doing these assessments visually, going back above ground and having to transfer all of this data into an Excel database, maybe, if they're lucky. And so how does this affect the greater operation? Well, poor use of data can lead to inefficient ground support and mine planning, increased risk to the operation, and also increased downtime. So at Rockmass, we've developed a streamlined data collection solution. We use a hardware application and a software combination. So on the hardware side, we have a depth sensor and a positioning sensor. And then our software is able to automatically calculate numerical data sets that ground control engineers need to use every day within seconds. So to give you some insight of how it works, a ground control engineer goes up to the location or the drift of interest. They point the device, the axis mapper, at the rock face. They receive feedback in real time, and when that box turns green, they take a picture of that joint set or structural feature of interest. And within seconds, they're able to obtain the information they need. They're able to augment this with additional data that they'd be collecting every day. And so we're taking this 6-hour process and turning it into minutes. We're providing accurate and consistent data sets across the workforce, so any engineer can collect the same quality of data, and it's also easy to use. We're able to train technicians and engineers how to use this within 10 minutes. And so how do we compare? This is based off of published research that shows this is really the all-in-one solution for rock mechanics. And the reason why we're so much quicker is because we have our default output as numerical data sets, whereas other approaches like LiDAR and photogrammetry, its default output is spatial data that still needs to be distilled down. We've been working with Nexa Resources. They are a major zinc producer, and we've seen exceptional results in increasing their operational flexibility through increased rate of data collection, transfer, and decision making, and also increasing the accuracy of the data sets themselves. And we're at a very exciting point and unique point in our company where we will be expanding to all of Nexa's sites next year, in addition to 2 additional companies within North America. And we really built this in the hands of our end users. So we've been on the ground working with ground control engineers to make sure that this is something that's easy to adopt, a solution that they love, and drives meaningful value for their operation. So we'd love to work with additional mining companies. This is underground mines. And to give you a flavor of how we work with them, we work with the ground control engineers, understand their workflow, and we incorporate their data input and their database into our solution. We go on site and we do a one-time calibration and one-day training. And of course, the key to sustaining the success is through support. So thank you very much. We're building real-time geotechnical data for underground operations, and this platform is really just the beginning of what we're capable of. There are many other software solutions that are in parallel departments that may be able to benefit from the same applications. So thank you very much, and I look forward to questions.
Over to the judges.
Thank you for your presentation. Very insightful. Definitely a new world for me. I'm wondering, could you speak a little bit about how you make money from this? Is it a hardware sale, or do you plan to do it on the support side and really stick with your customer?
Yeah, so the main way we work with mining companies is we provide the software and the hardware all together on an annual basis, which includes the support and everything all in one. If there's customization that needs to be done, then we assess how much work that's going to be at the beginning, but those are the main two parts of it.
Shelby, do you see opportunities for expansion outside of underground?
Yeah, there's a number of avenues that you can explore. So there's different verticals within mining. So for example, open pit perhaps, or exploration. But within underground mining, there's a lot of data that needs to be collected every day through the technical services department. So it can be exploring those aspects as well.
So yeah, great stuff, Shelby. If you look at an underground mine, maybe 1 or 2 units you'll be selling, one way for it to have an uptake is your feedback from your customer, where the geotech says, actually, this is an improved assessment to what my guys will do underground, or there's a validation of what they measure. This device of yours validates. Can you give us a bit of feedback on your product testing and validation in the field and your customer experience on that?
Yeah, definitely. So broadly speaking, every time we go underground with an engineer, we say, okay, we want you to pick what you want to measure, and we want to do it, measure it in the way that you usually do. So maybe it's a compass or visual, whatever it is. And then we gave them our hardware, and we say, okay, measure the same data sets, and then we compare them once we're above ground so that they can see immediately what the feedback is.
Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering a bit, what kind of mining software are these mapping tools compatible?
So on the geotech side, we plug into rock science. For example, there's Dipson and Wedge. Those are the most common geotech softwares, but really we can format the output to any type of database or CSV, so you can pull it into a mine plan software, for example.
So can you output in as a DXF? That's what usually some of the software would require.
So this is, it's the numerical data part of it. So we output primarily to CSV and text.
Thank you.
Any last questions? Otherwise, folks, big round of applause for Shelby. Thanks, Shelby. Cool. And our final startup is SymbolicWare, and I'd like to welcome Kirk Petroski, who's the president and CEO. Come on up, Kirk. Yes.
There we go. Good afternoon. Last presentation of the afternoon, so hopefully everybody sticks around following and asks a few questions. Pleasure to be here, and just a quick shout out to Unearthed and Shell. Thank you for the opportunity to be up on stage today to talk about SymbolicWare. So I'm Kirk Petroski, founder and CEO, and we have developed from the ground up an industrial IoT platform that is focused on both hardware and software. Okay, so what problems do we solve? And this morning we talked about silo data, access to data, open data, a lot of discussion around the data. So our data that we use, coming from primarily mobile assets, is used to help on the safety and compliance, and specific examples of the types of data in real time that we provide. Simple things like seatbelt monitoring, seatbelt avoidance, overspeeding, tire temperatures, overloading of equipment, and making sure that the operator and the operators of the equipment are in compliance. Second thing, with the same platform, we provide data to be able to help improve the overall effectiveness of the equipment by helping organizations help reduce the asset operating costs. Tires, a great example. Quick ROI on tires. Other things of overheated transmissions, preventing transmission failures, axle replacements, brake replacements, etc. All requiring both real-time and post-analysis data to help organizations do better with maintenance costs. And finally, the same data, the same platform is being used to help increase utilization. In an underground environment, those of you that operate in the underground mines, utilization is roughly 30-35% on assets. A lot of room for improvement. We're providing data that helps companies increase that utilization and ultimately driving better productivity, cycle time management, making sure that weight loads are consistent so that there's minimal variability in what's coming out to the crusher. So why are we different? What do we do compared to OEMs and others? We started our disruption as an open data platform, unlocking proprietary data that is held within the OEMs and making it accessible to operators within the format that they want to work with their data. We provide real-time data in non-connected areas. So in an underground mine, as an example, you don't have pervasive network coverage. So how do you get real-time data, being able to analyze it and process it at sub-second polling rates, etc.? We have patents in the way we do that. Ultimately, we help to reduce the time and access to that data. And really, we started our foundations as an automation company from the OT side, the operational technology, but through OT and IT convergence, we've managed to move data now upwards into the operational level. So quick overview of the platform. We describe what we do in 3 key areas of collect, which is the sensor network around the equipment. That is our product called the SymBot, and that interfaces with the various sensors on board. Finally, or the next step, sorry, we connect via existing infrastructure, but also connect people to the data. The data then goes into either a cloud-based or a premise-based system called SymView. And from SymView, we have the upward integration connections into our partners' technology, including OSI Soft, including Uptake, and others. So who are we? As summarized, we're an industrial IoT platform company. We pivoted into this in 2017. We established in 2008, really building interfaces to multiple OEM, different types of equipment. We're based out of Sudbury, Ontario, Silicon Crater, if you know of Sudbury. We have patents in the way we do our store and forward. This year we established our first office in Tucson to service the open pit market with a major contract that we won in the area. We have many tier 1 and tier 2 mining customers, which will, the next slide, we have a logo deck. And we've also succeeded by being a very good broker of data into other people's systems, such as OSI Soft and Uptake. So some of our competitors would be the onboard systems themselves, traditional fleet management systems, and we do have an underground competitor called Nutrax that maybe some of you are aware of. Who we work with, here's our logos. Many of these are beyond POCs, several long-term contracts, full deployment. And in summary, we collect the data through our platform. We help build a strategy to help organizations make better use and act on the data, and finally work with technology systems and partners to help implement the data. Thank you.
Well done, Kirk. Over to our judges.
Thanks, Kirk. Appreciate that. So you said you start by making openly available the data that's otherwise proprietary from the operators. What happens if they decide to just open up that data?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get that one quite often. We work, again, with the end user customer. Sometimes the warranty issue comes up. The end user is usually often able to mitigate those types of concerns. To speak more on the data quality and the data integrity that we provide, we are, in most cases, a lot of that is processed on board, filters are applied, and that data is packaged in a way that they provide to the customer. Our value proposition is raw, unfiltered data at the source so that we can drive better data quality into predictive maintenance systems. Those systems rely on high volumes of data, good data integrity, and so on. That's what we provide.
Can you maybe, thank you for your presentation, can you maybe speak a bit about who installs that machine on the equipment and what the lifetime of it is? Does it run as long as the truck? Do you do it yourself? Do you work with suppliers that resell your products?
Yeah, no, good question. We have a staff of roughly 20, and then we also have many installation technology partners that help in that process. We do have our in-house capability to do assessments on the equipment, installations. We have full processes in place with RMA procedures, how to enable the customer to actually take ownership of the implementation so that if they choose to use their own partners or internally, we enable them to do that as well. So we've gone, it depends on the customer preference. Some have the capability and resource to do it, others don't, and we provide that.
Hey, Kirk, Joe, great presentation. Just curious, it sounds like you're competing with the OEMs. A lot of the OEMs now are starting to do their onboard processing of data and offering that as a value-added service. Does it require cooperation with the OEMs, or how are you differentiating from what the OEM is doing themselves?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. One of our flagship projects, Glencore, Nickel Rim South, it was really collaborative when we started. We involved Toromont Cat in the project, we involved Site, we involved ourselves, and we were really there to solve a problem for the customer in getting access to data in really difficult areas. OEM didn't have a solution to be able to do that underground, and we did that through collaboration. Where we come into more maybe direct competition would be in the open pit market, where there are onboard systems already, but again, we have the option to provide, in the case of, let's say, Caterpillar as an example, the pre-processed data at the source itself. So what does that mean? That means interfacing directly with the engine, the transmission, and the various sensor networks on board. And yeah, that's generally how we do it. Hopefully that answered what you're looking for. Thank you.
Other question? Renz? Let's go on.
Kirk, maybe one last question before you head off is, where do you see yourself in 10 years when there's more autonomy and you see more of these type of plays coming into the moving equipment space?
Yeah.
Are you the autonomy provider? Where's Symbioticware in 10 years from now?
No, that's a great question. I don't know if the verdict is out yet on full autonomy and whether or not the industry will transition to that. I see the opportunity in what we're doing. We're at a very underutilized of our product today. It's an industrial computer. It has the capability to, in the future, provide a decentralized AI capability. And that's where our long-term goal is. What that means is, I believe there's a role for the operator on the equipment. The operator has knowledge, there's gut feel, there's intuition about that. But I think what we need are more of an assistant to be able to provide feedback immediately to the operator to enable them to make better decisions on the equipment rather than go full autonomous. So, and we see that in the automotive industry with vehicles becoming more available with operator-assisted technology.
Final questions? Good. Folks, big round of applause for Kirk. Thank you, Kirk. Well done. Thank you, Matt. Excellent. Can we give a huge round of applause to all of the 5 startups that pitched today? Right. Awesome job. We at Unearthed, we love running these competitions. We run a couple every year. We've run Startups on Unearthed Australia. Plan to do that again next year. This is the first time we've done Startups on Unearthed Americas. Startups on Unearthed Africa, which will be at Mining in Daba next year, it's great because we get to keep our eye on emerging technologies in the market, but it's personally rewarding because we get the chance to actually meet some incredible founders and hear their story and hear their journey and hear how crazy they are trying to actually change the mining industry. As a startup founder, I think you have to have a little bit crazy there, but well done. So please take the time over the course of the next day or so to have a chat to the founders, connect with them, have a chat about how they might be able to support your business as well. That's it for this particular session. I believe we're going to hand it back and we'll have some conversations with our fellow judges, not that I'm on the judging panel, but with the judges, to hopefully select a winner very shortly. Thank you everybody for all your support and time.